Okay, so let me. Okay, stand by, everybody.
The recording is paused.
Oh, recording is paused? Oh, no, it's still going on. Okay, I'll start the webinar now. Ready, everybody? Okay. Welcome, everybody. I hope the weather is lovely where you are. It's certainly glorious here in the UK today, which is unusual. And we are so happy to have you join us today for another of our European Specialty Tea Association webinars to learn, connect, and hopefully inspire tea professionals everywhere. I'm Bannerjee, one of the founding directors of ESTA, along with my wonderful colleagues Alexis Kay, and who's also the founding director, and David Veal. He is the executive director of ESTA. Now, as an association, you will know that we are champions of specialty tea, and we are very excited to invite someone who many of you in the tea industry might know. Certainly, teas from his estate in Darjeeling has graced the tables of many an afternoon tea occasion. I'm talking about Rajah Bannerjee. He's a tea planter, an environmentalist, and a writer best known for his stewardship of his ancestral Makai Bari, tea estate in Darjeeling. And it is essentially one of the world's first tea factory that was established in 1859. And today he will take us to the wonders of Darjeeling right from the seats of your home. I'd love to give you a chance to ask Rajah questions, and you can do this by posting them in the Q&A anytime during the session, and we will do our best to address your questions at the end. So for the next 35 minutes, maybe 40, sit back, relax, and sip some tea. Welcome, Rajah. It's a pleasure to have you here today. But before we begin the presentation, can I just ask you what specialty tea means to you?
Well, Bannerjee, specialty tea literally defines itself because all good things come in little packages, and quality and quantity are not synonymous. So specialty teas only come in small batches, artisanally made, and we should all go for it because that is the epitome of one's existence in life. So that's what specialty tea actually defines and means to me. The ultimate, the creme de la creme in the cup.
Spoken like a true artist. Well, I can't wait for everybody to listen to your wonderful stories and your presentation. So I'm going to let you take the floor with your lovely assistant, David, helping you with the slides. Take it away, and I'll be back when we have the questions ready to present to you.
We all set to roll now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take you through a little voyage called the glory of Darjeeling. Its past, its present, and its future. So let's have the second slide. I think the glory of Darjeeling is about to roll into the past. This is what Darjeeling looked like. At the background, you see the famous third highest mountain peak of the Himalayas. It's called Kanchenjunga. I'll come to Kanchenjunga and what secrets. It's a holy mountain, why it's considered holy by the Buddhists, Tibetan Buddhists, the Sherpas, the original leopards, etc. But this is atypical scenes. You had a wonderful rainforests, and you can see from it that they were very diverse in their, genetic diversity. And we all know that forests are the absolute living force of the soil. And if you don't have it properly, if you don't look after it properly, and we learn to live as a rhythm of nature, we are all in big trouble. Can you have the next one, please? How did the blossoming of Darjeeling begin? But let me reiterate Bernardine's contention that I'm a tea planter. Actually, I'm not. My whole voyage began with tree planting, T-R-E-A planting. So my ancestral garden was Makai Bari, which I've exited now in 2017 when my ancestral house burned down in a fire. It's an old wooden house, an ancient house, and you have a short circuit, it goes poof, and it's all cinders. How did the name Darjeeling materialize? Now, what champagne is to wine, Darjeeling is to tea. It's a cliche. But let's go back to how it originated. Prior to the tea, you saw the lush forests that existed there. And there was one monastery atop the mountaintop at 7,700 feet called Gum. It was a Buddhist monastery. The monks lined up atop the mountain top and they watched the nor'westers roll in from the Bay of Bengal. You could see the dark clouds moving up ferociously up the plains of Bengal, but you couldn't see anything else. As they approached the Himalayas, flashes of lightning appeared. And then they started chanting, Darjeeling. As it approached, the chant increased in tempo. And 4 hours later, when it was up ahead, it unleashed its entire ferocity. Flashes of lightning, claps of thunder, and you thought it was the end of the world. And you had a downpour of about 7 to 8 inches of rain in half an hour. And as if by magic, clears up. Hence, the chant, Darjeeling. Dorje means thunder, Ling means land, land of the thunderbolt. The English couldn't pronounce it, so it became anglicized into Darjeeling. That's what Darjeeling is all about. The special Himalayan region offers the right environmental balance to grow the best quality tea. But how did this all happen? Let's go on to the next slide. Can I have the next slide, please? Can I have the next slide, please? So this is what Darjeeling blossomed in. Robert Fortune was, I'd say, the first plant pirate. So when the cumulative, the very lucrative clipper runs were stopped, Robert Fortune was sent out. He was the finest botanist then. And he made a couple of trips into China, up the Yangtze River. Just imagine Scotsman going up the pirate-infested river with 2 revolvers in his hand, but how he did it, he must have been a genius. He really went up from all the tea regions, from Hunan to Yunnan and back. And the seeds that were thrown from his travels, from his 2 voyages, were thrown in various corners of India. And what popped up in Darjeeling was really the cornerstone of what is known as then the capital, summer capital of the erstwhile capital, Kolkata. And that's what you see, the image that was beautifully laid down in 1870s. That was the summer capital. Kanchenjunga's and the background, the highest peak, and it means the mountain of 5 hidden treasures in Tibetan Buddhism. And when humanity is most in need of it, a mythical horse called Chintamani would arrive at our doorstep with solutions to uplift humanity out of their misery. May I have the next slide, please? This is what Darjeeling looks like today. It's tad overcrowded, and there's been a lot of migrations. There's been a lot of deforestation. And still, the romance of Darjeeling still lingers in every corner of the world. I'll tell you a little story. I was traveling in America about 10 years ago, and somebody accosted me in the Midwest somewhere and said, "Where do you come from?" I said, "From Darjeeling." "Oh, that's where the tea is." And although I just hasten to add that we only produce about 0.5% of the world's tea production, but such is the brand Darjeeling. It resonates very strongly with anyone, anywhere we meet, that it is the home of tea. That is brand Darjeeling or Darjeeling. Maybe have the next one, please. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the history of my ancestors and what the first tea factory that was built by my great-grandfather, Girish Chandra Bannerjee, along with Colonel Samla. It was founded in 1859, and although the Chinese tea industry is a lot older, over 1,000 years old, and the Japanese 600, almost 700 years old, we are only a 163-year-old little infant, but it was the first tea factory. That would probably pique your curiosity why it's so. All the teas in China and Japan were handmade. It was more or less a cottage industry, and that's where the artisanal skills came in. Probably the range of teas that you have from China was immense because they were all individual, personalized, a craft. But then, when the tea estates were brought into being out of need to facilitate a very lucrative tea trade, it was the industrialization of tea, actually. When you had a large labor force, captive in a garden and totally dependent on their livelihood for this tea estates. So the colonial hierarchical type of management came into being, where you had it was like a little duchy, and it worked very well till 1947. But post 1947, once India regained independence, the scenario has changed very rapidly. Let me tell you a bit about my dad. He was a fantastic hunter. He was renowned for his, he was a one-eyed jack. He could shoot anything down. He shot many, many tigers, etc. And he was hunting in one of the Mahaibari forests when he was caught in one of these nor'westers. And he found that the runoff from the forest was absolutely crystal clear, whereas the runoff from the tea was brackish. It didn't take him long to realize that the wealth of the garden was being washed away. What could he do? That was the time when he invented mulching. Mulching, as we all know, is a botanical mulch, a blanket on the ground that takes the impact of the rain and thus prevents erosion. That's when Mahaibari began her organic voyage. May I have the next slide, please? This is the factory, the first tea factory ever built, quite historic. And it's quite a situation in Mahaibari because for every acre of tea, it's surrounded by 2 acres of indigenous forests. And I had a hand in my 47-year love affair with this tract of land to create this very unique permaculture. Furthermore, the tea is broken down with various temporary and permanent legumes, grasses, creepers, fruit trees, orchards. So it's a buzz with all sorts of activity and life. And the cumulative result was a switchover overnight practically to organic tea, but I had to convince my dad about it. So I'll tell you a little story. I had no intent of actually joining my father in the garden. And I'd come home for a holiday from my studies in the UK. And I was riding around, I'm in equestrian. But no matter how good a horseman you are, if you ride regularly, you have to fall. This was a very minor accident physically, but a major one for my soul that caused the catharsis. As I was ejected from the saddle, the tree started talking to me, and I pinched myself to just realized that it wasn't just a pipe dream. It was a wonderful, melancholic, ululating sound, the likes of which had never been heard before. And I knew it was a calling, and I knew I had to stay there and plant trees. So at night, at the dinner table with my parents, I sat down and I talked to them. I didn't tell them that the trees had talked to me because I didn't want to be certified insane. But I said, I'm going to, yeah, but with two conditions. A, you're not going to chop down any more of the forest to plant tea. And B, you must give me a free hand to plant as many trees I like from local resources. On both points, he agreed. And so my voyage into this tract of land started, or the love affair started, and I became a tree planter. And as I planted trees, the answers came down one by one. Permaculture, mulch, cow culture, etc., etc. And along the tree planting, I discovered that in the forests, all sorts of diseases were there, but there was a wonderful food web system that controlled that it didn't become, it didn't get out of hand at all. It didn't become epidemic proportions. So why couldn't we replicate this in the garden? And that's when we started having the whole concept of permaculture, the leguminous plants. And when I broached at dinner again to my father, hey, Dad, you've got this wonderful mulching system whereby you've created this marvelous, hospitable conditions for soil microorganisms to multiply. And you apply a round of fertilizers and you're killing billions of them. Of course, he was a tyrannical, rich landlord. So his word was law. And he went off into a rage, into a little bit of a huff and chuff. And he said, oh, you think you know best too? So I said, well, Dad, let's talk about it. But he wasn't having any of it. So I decided to trap him. I used technology. So I had a dictaphone. I first and foremost, I located a little 2-acre patch in the middle of a forest with hardly anybody visited. And together with some friends in the garden, we manured it secretly with cow dung, a well-composted cow dung. And then we plucked this section separately and we manufactured separately. And every week, when this was tasted in the day's manufacture, he said, oh, Rajah, where's this from? I said, yes, Dad, I'll look into it. And I had him taped with my dictaphone. And this went on for about 9 months. And 9 months later, when he went on the weekly teaching, have you found out yet, Rajah, where it is? I played it all back to him. And after that, he opened the doors unconditionally for the cow culture to come in. And we funded all the 7 villages that we have, all the 630 villages that we had in 7 villages with cows over the next 12 years. And that's where the organic voyage really started. Can we have the next one, please? So this is a part of the homestay project where we had students coming from all over the world. One of the most disconcerting aspects of a tea estate are of women's empowerment. It really bothered me because anywhere I've gone in the world, women bend their back the hardest and they're always relegated to second-class citizenship. And the more marginalized the society, the greater the exploitation. It really bugged me. If I want to do something about it. I found that the women pluckers, they had to get up at 3 in the morning to get a headload of firewood. Can you imagine the monsoons, what this is like? It's raining all the time, smoky kitchen, etc. Coming back, cooking the morning breakfast, sending the children off to school, sending the husbands off to work, themselves off to work till about 12 o'clock, have an hour's lunch break, then work till 4 o'clock again, and then come back, cook and scrub, clean, do all the rest of it, and then being used as a sexual punchback and off to tired slumber. It was a tough life. So I want to do something about it. And one of the stuff that we really initiated was one, the cow culture, of course, and then the biogas that came in. So you had a non-polluting renewable energy on tap, and that you get a lot of leisure time. Downstream, we had manure. So that took care of the money which we bought in. So it became a wonderful thing. And I wasn't happy about it because the wages were still pitiful. So what did we do? We created the homestays. So the homestays were so brilliant that we got people on the gap year coming in from all the universities all over the world, doing sort of conducting their research on sustainability and ethics. And then the name grew and it just spread all across the world. And they stayed in these homes and they paid 8 times more than what the average wage was. So that way, women were empowered. And what happens when women get empowered, I'll tell you a little later on down the road. Can we have the next one, please? So my tree planting spree inspired the sustainable initiative to Global Tea. And we were the first garden to be certified in the, I think, 70 odd countries growing tea today. Maybe as we speak, 71st has come into being, because I've just met somebody, I just received somebody at the airport from France, Marianne, and she's planted about 10,000 plants in South France. And she's come to see us small growers, how we've done it beyond the walls of Makai Bari. And she thinks she's a small grower, but she's fantastic. So from tomorrow onwards, we're going on a trek towards a very special trek that we're creating with all the small growers, the artisan growers that we have in Darjeeling now. So it's just, you know, filled with the cup overflow, literally, with all it. So of course, we pioneered organics to global tea and biodynamics to tropical agriculture. And it's hard to believe, but fair trade actually came knocking at my door. That was way back in 91, 92, over 30 years ago. And they adopted all the measures that we had on CSR activities as a criteria for being certified fair trade. So it was fun. And the fun was just out of tree planting, and all this just cascaded down. It was just wonderful. So what is sustainability and ethics? It just snowballs. Now, a neighboring state, Sikkim, has gone completely organic with all its food. There's one tea estate called Temi. That's, of course, went organic in 2008. And they did take a lot of my help there. I was the brand ambassador for after I exited Makaba in 2017, shot them up. And then the other crops and vegetables, herbs, particularly chamomile, it grows wonderfully all around the region. And I needn't tell you about the Ilam chapter, which has also been inspired by initiatives at Makai Bari. So it's not only that, what happens now is it attracts businessmen, politicians, grassroots entrepreneurs, students, common people. It cuts across the swath of humanity, because healthy soil is healthy mankind. And that is the fundamental equation that's going organic, has chanted that mantra. Healthy soil is healthy mankind. At Makai Bari, we attract over 100,000 visitors a year. And that's the last count when I was there. And so these aspects of economy, social empowerment, the permacultural, ecological, sort of harmony are the backbone of this achievement, because all issues of humanity is essentially that of imbalance, of harmony. And when one practices holistic agriculture, one becomes harmonious. And that is the fundamental seed that can rule the world with love. That's why sustainable agriculture is so essential in this critical stage of emergent humanity. Can we have the next one, please? So this is a typical small growers, artisanal tea growers farm that we support. It's in Bunklung, and you can see the diversity of trees. It's not one, but many, many. It's fruit trees, legumes, the tea itself in between, and then the forest around the ridges. It just goes around, twirling around. And they have the food crop, the food, etc. And we'll be presenting a lot more apps shortly on how we've achieved sustainable development goals. Look out for those, and we certainly share it with ESTA in the next few months when it's completed. Maybe have the next one. So once the house cindered, I thought I've spent 47 years here. I've got a succession plan in place, a big house that had been 3 generations of tea. They were after me. And since my children would set them free and they'd gone out pursuing their own dreams, I thought it was a good idea to merge with the Lakshmi Group. And you cannot be an island of prosperity in a sea of unhappiness. So I thought I'd had enough, and I'm going to go into Bali with all my international friends. We have one climate throughout the year. Maybe plant a little tea next to the Balinesian islands, maybe as a little pastime. But unfortunately, man proposes and God disposes. I got a very strong dream, and the word Rinpoche kept reverberating. And so Rinpoche is a Buddhist reincarnate avatar. So Rinpoche, the mission is to be a reincarnation of a tea avatar. Not I, but the whole initiative, the whole team, and the initiative is one growers to grow artisanal teas, is the call. So it really has been an amazing journey. In 5 years, we've just achieved magnificent results, because in a tea estate, there was a sort of, expectations, both from top down, from my end, as well as from bottom up. There's a sort of entitlement. We've been living together for 4 or 5 generations. So we're taking many things for granted. And so whenever there was a little hiccup, you went to the unions and you had a ding dong, we had to sit down, we had a tripartite, we settled it, whatever. And yet, when it was something beyond legal needs, because of a 4 generational attachment, you couldn't ignore it. There's a human factor to it. So somehow it didn't quite gel, because of this gadget that we had, which has given people a different dimension, made the world into a global village called Guru Google, because everybody has access to information in their own language. And so everybody's empowered. So nobody will take any nonsense from anybody today. You can just hit it and download the information you seek. So it is a tool of great empowerment. So when I started this with the first village, I was shocked to see the results, because what we could achieve in 10 months in these villages, it took 10 years in reflection at an ancestral garden. I scratched my head and thought about it. Why was this in a huge gap? What was the reason for it? And of course, it was very obvious. If it's your own cow, you don't need to be taught how to look after it. But if you give your cow to be looked after by somebody else, then all the real hassle starts at all. So it's best to achieve these results. So here's it, buddy. You give me the tea. What's the market price? X. I'm giving you 2X, provided you listen to me and my expertise. And since I'm well known in the region for whatever we've done, people listen to me. And it's growing and growing and snowballing. Now, 70% of production in North Bengal and Assam, and also in South India, are from small growers. And they are the ones who are shoring up the sagging fortune of the tea industry. If we remove them from the scenario, the tea estates would collapse immediately in India. I don't know if it's the same scenario in Sri Lanka. I'm sure it is. And in Africa, I'm not too sure. I did have a chat with Grounded last week, and they're going to go into partnerships and they're contemplating, and we had a chat. It's very interesting. But the synergies are now open for partnerships that leads up to Agenda 2030, which we're going to lead up to. May I have the next one, please? So Kanchenjunga is a mountain of 5 hidden treasures. It's considered a very holy mountain. Climbers are told not to go to the summit. You can climb, but not from the Sikkimese side, particularly. Why? Because in the heart of Kanchenjunga is Shambhala. Shambhala is a mystical place where the truth of the world, a mythical horse called Chintamani would come out with the 5 treasures on its back and offer it humanity's uplift when humanity is most in need of it. I feel that in 2018, when I woke up with this mantra resonating in my head in the middle of the night, Rinpoche. We were the recipient of this munificence. The first one is healthy soil. Healthy soil is healthy mankind. You can have it when your principal crop is grown within a diversity of 4 or 5 other vegetable matter, botanical diversity. It offers a unique mulch. That mulch takes the impact of the rain, so there's no erosion. The topsoil is preserved. It suppresses weed, but it doesn't kill them. So it lessens weeding costs, removes the need for weedicides, and of course, it multiplies diversity. During water stress, increasingly being felt, droughts with climate change, it preserves the ground moisture, enabling the crops to cope with the adversity excellently. And last but not least, when it decays in a few months, it turns into humus. Humus is soil health, and healthy soil is healthy mankind. We remove crops, harvests, we remove nutrients. The tea bush is then removing the nutrients. We need to supplement it naturally. We need it with cow manure. Why the cow? Why is the cow holy? I'm sure most of you are unaware of the fact why the cow is holy. Its answers in her horns. The cow is the only horned creature post sunset that can still digest. If you look at a cow in its byre at night, you'll find it goes munch, munch, munch. It's masticating away. The bull doesn't do it. The buff doesn't do it. The goat doesn't do it. No other horned creature, only the cow. The answers in her horns. Inside her horns is a helical groove that traps the cosmic energy. And when the sun sets, magically, it's a very advanced solar panel. I don't know why people don't research to find this, tap into this alternative source of energy. And if you could replicate it with technology, I'm sure we could, but nobody's thinking about it. It's raised down to 4 stomachs. The cow has 4 stomachs indeed. And plop, when the cow dung falls, it's the only dung in the world that's exposed to 24 hours of sunlight. That's big news. Because if you make it come alive, treat it well with biodynamic practices, it becomes a living organism. And when you take this living organism and apply it to your fields, your entire farmlands turns into an ever-evolving, dynamic organism. And the produce, the harvest, the teas, any other crops, food, herbs, spices, are all living. And what it does is shores up the immune system with exquisite taste. That is the hallmark of artisanal tea growing. Biodynamic practices, the flavor level takes a mega jump in this unique environment, permaculture. Now, as I said earlier on, women bend their back the hardest and are always relegated to second-class citizenship. The more marginalized the society, the greater the exploitation. There are 500 million women in the villages of India, and trust me, they're the worst exploited. Unless they're empowered, no country can march dynamically. So women have to be empowered. 2 cows, a biogas unit, we've done it in the Aristotle Garden, we've proven it. You're welcome to, anybody's welcome to see the proof of the pudding is in the eating after all. And she doesn't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. She has a non-polluting renewable energy on tap. This technology is best. You're also addressing climate change very effectively. Downstream, she has organic manure. She has organic food security. Her children grow healthy. The surplus she sells. She has money jangling in her pocket. And when a marginalized woman has extra money jangling in the pocket, she makes the most fantastic investment, education. The best primary education that lays the foundation stone of awareness, followed by the best secondary education when it evolves to it that few years down the line, that builds the capacity that awareness creates. The combination of the two creates a self-respecting grassroots entrepreneurs, another of my acronyms, a GRD. And when you have a self-respecting individual, you can conquer any mountain, including Everest. No mountain is tall enough. So If you provide it, you couple it up with technology. So when a woman has extra woman, a marginalized woman, she goes to the village master and gets this fellow, who's quite talented actually, to teach her children social development skills, social media skills, to communicate with the rest of the world by investing in a computer, which she can afford now. It's been done. You can come and see it, how we've done it. As well as the fact that because she does not have to get up at 3 a.m. to chop down a tree to cook rice, because you cannot have uncooked rice. Environments bloom, have traditional medicine come into play, Ayurvedic now. So when stories start circulating in the homestays, hesitant footfalls come in at first from polluted neighboring towns. They come in, they enjoy the hospitality, they enjoy the air, they enjoy the food, they enjoy the tea, and they go back recharged, and they take this traditional medicine with them, much better than any thing for common cures. And when it runs out, they order it online because they're now connected. This is the impact of Guru Google. It's a global village scenario. And so agri-tourism increases. And when you all finish your thing, you order it online. So you're using technology to order in for your things from this remote village. It's all accessible now. So that is the mantra you have. Healthy soil is healthy mankind with permaculture. Create hospitable conditions for all microorganisms to multiply. So soil is healthy. Above the ground, you have the holy cow, fertilization plant that gives you the best essentials of food, all of it. And of course, women empowered because the biogas units. You create a self-respecting grassroots community, and the technology goes up into cyberspace and into your doorstep. It's a complete green circular economy that cannot go wrong. This has actually fulfilled all the boxes of Agenda 2030 with the 17 sustainable goals remarkably. You're welcome to come and visit all our mentored villages well ahead of 2030, and this is only 2022. By the time 2030 rolls on, I hope we can get at least majority of the villages as an inspirational point in the subcontinent to go that way, thus ushering in futuristic global rural lifestyles that will serve humanity a long way to mitigate climate change and to live in harmony with each other in a peaceful way. That will usher in a new era of peace and prosperity. That would be fantastic, absolutely. Can we have the next one, please? As I opined, these are the 5 treasures, the 5 pillars, which are the treasures. And if you can weld them into a wonderful force together, it takes on a different vibration of going up into a different level of playing field altogether. Can we have the next one? So in the heart of all of villages nestles an untouched primary forest. The pristine jewel reaches out via woodlands to arterial corridors, to other large chunks of primary forest, ensconcing the islands of permacultural tea. That is the art of living, to be a rhythm of nature. We don't win against nature, because the creature that wins against nature destroys itself. And we are marching on borrowed time. So let's all be a rhythm of nature. And in tea, we have a wonderful opportunity to take to the next level up. Can we have the next one, please? And that is the end of my PowerPoint. I'd like to invite questions if there are any. And then it'll be followed by a little clip if you have time for it. It's called Master Tea to Master Life. It's been already encapsulated in Escuela Argentina de Tea, and it's a course in the Argentinian University. And it's a marvelous place. I understand they grow a lot of teas too. And they're marvelous people. Yeah.
Oh, Rajah, thank you very much. As ever, you are a brilliant storyteller. You really, really took us, on an imaginary voyage to Darjeeling. And I absolutely love also your philosophy of life and of tea. The fact that you're sharing as well with Marianne, who's, going to have a French garden. It's just really, really lovely. Tell me something. How long does a burnt out businessman or politician need to be doing a homestay with you before they start to feel that they can let go of their troubles? What is the recommended
24
time?
hours and, start breathing that air and you get all the love and affection and he doesn't have to, preach. They will, just shower him with all the open his heart. Because you see, what this burnt out politician, why is burnt out? Because he's been subject to the five senses: sight, smell, touch, taste, and audio. So he's been taught to maximize the flavor in the balance sheet. So he's forgotten about the flavor in the balance sheet of life. The moment you address the flavor in the balance sheet of life, yes, you address economics 33.33% of the time. Yes, you address politics, that's what we're doing now across continents, 33.33% of the time. And the environment, 33.34% of the time. Because why? There's 0.1% extra. Because without trees, we cannot live. Trees are poems that the earth writes to the skies. We cut them down to invent paper to record our emptiness. So don't cut them down. Let's go digital.
Goodness, well said. How do you remember all these statistics? That's amazing. Okay, and speaking of politics, I have a question from Nigel Milliken. As usual, he says, thank you, Rajah. As ever, you paint a perfect picture. Now, however, the reality is that world population is over 7 billion and increasing by another 1 billion every 10 years. To cope with this demand, annual global tea production has doubled since 2020 from 3 million tons to 6 million tons, thanks to intensive farming methods. Now, how can less intensive, lower yielding biodynamic farming possibly cope with such unprecedented future demand for ever increasing production? What can you tell Nigel?
It's very simple, Nigel. There's 8 billion people, not 7 now, almost. We've gone wrong in our education plan. We've got to reverse this trend of global warming and increase use of intensive farming of chemicals, because that's where it started. And that's where you'll get a good whiff of it, the answer in Master Tea to Master Life, Nigel. Why? Because if all 8 billion people planted a tree of their choice once a month for 1 year, I think we would have mitigated climate change and all the negativity of global warming and the need for needless bombing of the soil. Don't forget, it was Nagasaki and Hiroshima that released atom bomb that brought a temporary halt to our killings of each other. But what it did was also left a huge stock of naphtha with the American armament suppliers. They conveniently turned this into, the green revolution of bombing it. And why did it happen? Because one bag of urea, 50 kilos of urea, supplies all the need for 1 acre of tea, for example, which needs 3 tons of well-composted cow dung. So 500 million farms within 10 years switched to conventional farming. And this was what is known as intensive farming with chemicals. And if you plant trees, we just taught to plant trees instead of all this rhetoric about this, that, and the other, so many things. 1 tree, 8 billion trees a month. Into 8 is 12 into 8. You see what's happening. We do it for 5 years. We've got the answer there. We've got it under check. And all the demands will be met. We'll be living in a harmonious situation. And when you're living in harmony, you know what to do. You can cope with any situation. That's what I suggest. Plant a tree, teach everybody, whether at home or at school, 1 tree of your choice, individual, indigenous. And what's the magic that happens?
Thank you very much for that message. Incidentally, what are your thoughts about organic, the flavor of organic tea versus non-organic tea? Do you think
I,
the flavor is always better?
well, let me give you a small example. When we started a organic voyage in Makai Bari, supplying all the cows, because I said, let me give you a little story of the barefoot yogi. The yogi was a barefoot chap, and he used to walk barefoot all his life. The soles of his feet were so tough that he could walk on burning embers. So he used to give demonstrations, people would chuck a few coins at him, and that was livelihood, went from one village to the other. A great guy, a cool guy. Along comes Mr. Nike and throws him a pair of Nike Air. The yogi puts them on, and wow, he's jumping around and dunking like Mike Jordan. And so this is cool. He gets a tad worried after 3 months when the sole is starting to wear off. But he didn't worry. Mr. Nike comes in, gets another pair of boots, and this goes on for 70 years. After 70 years of wearing Nike boots, is it possible for him to go back to being barefoot? That's the question that Nigel has asked. Okay? I said, not impossible, very hard, but it's not impossible. I'm giving you a solution. Let's all plant one tree each and see the fun happens. Give it a try. Okay.
By the way, Nigel says, Rajah, this year, I planted 40 trees, but I have to wait 300 years for them to mature.
Well, you'll be the wisest and the cleverest man 300 years later. Keep at it, Nigel. Well done. I salute you. You're the tree doer of UK, or if you haven't moved on to Ireland yet.
To Ireland yet. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so okay, the quality jump is immense, and compared to organic foods, to chemical, anything which is escalated or forced, anything which is naturally grown in its own steam will always have higher flavor. But just certified organic does not mean you'll get a better price if it's not well made and manufactured. So beware. If you don't pay careful attention to artistry, of artisanship, of making it, all of it is lost, because bad organic teas will fetch you a rotten price.
Indeed. Okay, I have another question here from Linda. She says, thank you very much, Rajah, and amazing insights. Oh, it's Alicia Gentili here with Linda Rampen. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about your opinion of the current state of tea production in Darjeeling as a whole, and realistically, the reputation of the region in the future. Thank you.
I personally think that most of the tea estates are having a hard time because, as I said earlier on, the barefoot tea, 80%, 90% of the gardens are certified organic, few even biodynamic. But is it so? Because the fertilization plan is not right. Because 50 kgs of urea supplements all the nitrogen needs for 1 acre of tea, which needs almost 3 tons of composite carbon. Where is that material? I don't see it. So unless the fertilization plan is rectified, this is going to go down. A small example, when I was called into Temi Tea Estate in 2018, their crop had declined from 110 tons to 6 tons. So I had all the soil analyzed. Immediately I found there's a deficiency of NPK. And then I had a check, and I found that only peripherally that manure was done. It was only 1/3 of the requirement. Instead of having 3 meals, were to have 1 meal. Alicia, would you have the strength to go on from the day to the left? Of course not. So we immediately changed it around, and within 1 year, the turnaround the curve. So get the fertilization plan right, think straight, and the whole scenario changes. But having said that, there's also an increased production. You must know how to market it. Now, as I said, Darjeeling is globally branded. And if you can't write the brand effectively through clever marketing, then I think we deserve to close down. So if the former channels of marketing are closed, you've got to reimagine your marketing space and do it. And I personally feel that India has got the greatest marketing place in the world, because the first time in the history of India that 300 million youngsters have money jangling in their pockets. That's the monsoons just hitting us. You can hear the thunder and lightning, Darjeeling, okay? It's a big sort of thunder shower that we're having now. And if you get it right, and these youngsters, they're looking at, they want something which is safe to the health and safe to the environment. For the next 20 years, anything which is organic, proper organic, with high quality, the imagined retail space will really capture it. And it's eat local, think global. It can be turned around very easily. Yes, it's a tough time, but we have a name. You've got to think right. And when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So I think the artisanal small growth that we have, unaffected by what the tea estates are facing. They're making superb teas, small quantities, premium prices in the country, bam.
So the future is bright for Darjeeling then.
The future is bright for Darjeeling if the teas are artisanally grown, not for quantity. Quality and quantity are not synonymous. Darjeeling must focus on artisanal teas, and we are glad that ESTA is there, promoting the specialty tea shops to come forward and support this now, immediately. For the good ones. I'm not saying for the bad teas, these are for the best ones.
Of course. Of course. Well, we have run out of questions for now. I wondered if we have 10 more minutes. Would you like to tell us about the empowerment of women in the next slides, or would we have time to run through that on your video?
If you do that, I think that's covered in the video. Women's empowerment is there, not only through tea, but entirely as a part of the food security. The roots and herbs that come in, it's just miraculous. Oh. It's of the people, by the people, for the people.
Okay, I tell you what we will do, Rajah, is we will also post this video for everybody to see on our website and give people the link, because I actually do have one question from somebody here. They said, how do we make Indians drink Darjeeling teas? I think this is quite a good one for you to answer.
It's very simple, because you invite them, because the rest of the country is dealing with ferocious heat waves. We are an automatic air conditioning up here. To come to automatic air conditioning in all our villages and enjoy the homestays. And while you're at the homestays, get them hooked on this elixir of life. I don't call it tea. I call it a magical, mystical Himalayan herb. Once you have that herb, you're prancing, and when you go back home, you can cope with the heat much better when you open that and you're taken back instantly to automatic air conditioning. That's the way to do it. Proof of the pudding is always the lead.
Incidentally, what is your favorite tea, Rajah?
I don't have a favorite, because are you married, Bannerjee?
Yes, I am.
How many children do you have?
I'm blessed with none, unfortunately.
Well, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I do.
How many brothers?
One sister, just one sister.
Yeah, when your parents were asked who was your favorite, what did your parents say?
They don't have a favorite. They love us equally the same.
That's the same thing. So I don't have a favorite. I drink different teas different times of the day. When I wake up in the morning, I have first flush, because the tea made after long winter dormancy. Mm-hmm. So I think it energizes. At 11s, when I've just had a bout of thing and spirit is waning a bit, I fortify myself with a wonderful cup of second flush muscatel. During the English traditional tea time, I really have a lot of white tea, and which is a high order sort of pan-fried tea.
Yeah.
And just before I go off to sleep, I have my signature tea, the full moon imperial plug, a small cup to lull me to celestial slumber. Good night.
My God, that sounds like a perfect day. Yeah, it's really, really nice. Okay, I tell you what, we have 7 more minutes, so why don't we play the video, sure, if possible, and then that way maybe we can
round it up.
Really round it off and give everybody to see what you're all about. David, do you think you could play the video, David? Oh dear, there's no sound.
Good. We've lost the sound. What did we
Yeah,
do?
we've lost the sound.
Hello, I'm playing it as best I can, but if there's no sound coming through, I'm out of my depth technically here.
Oh, well.
That's okay. Well,
Sound.
yeah, don't worry. What we will do is for everybody to see, what we will do is put it on our website and then send everybody the link. And of course, this session is being recorded, so we will also put the video and attach it to the recording as well, so you can watch it if you need to play it back. But I wanted to say, Rajah, do you have any last thoughts before we wrap up for today?
Well, I think, I'll just give you a little mantra that when you have a good cup of next year, organic cup of high quality Darjeeling tea, a mantra. Close your eyes, sip the brew, make one wish, and within 21 days it'll come true. And once it comes true, you can send, contact me, and I'll send you my fee, which is for the community, not for me personally. That'll benefit the community. How's that for a closure?
Oh, I absolutely love it. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much, for joining us today. It's been so great. The positive energy is really overwhelming. We love what you do, and any way we can support, let us know. But for now, thank you, Rajah, because I know it's so late for you over there. What is it, almost 1 o'clock in the morning now?
It's about 12, just gone past 12:30.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we just want to say thank you, from all of us in the community for your contribution. And we look forward to, seeing you again. But for now, have a really good night. I just wanted to also say for everybody that on the 20th of July, we have Boaz Qatar. He's the chairman of the Purple and Specialty Tea Association in Kenya. And he will be talking to us on the 20th of July about what it takes to produce specialty teas in Africa and the amazing quality that is produced there. And he'll be referring to the concept of the 6 P's of specialty tea, which is going to be very interesting. Then also in the lineup on the 17th of August, we have Joyce Minor, who will be explaining how the International Trade Center is working with the East African Tea Trade Association, which is also supported by us at ESTA, in a project to explore the feasibility of establishing a regular supporting work to get these amazing teas access to market using a new scoring and grading system. Some of us at ESTA have been involved in this, and it is very, very interesting. So I'd really love you to join us for that as well. But for today, I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us, to listen to Rajah's wonderful storytelling of Darjeeling. And as you know, we are here because we want to raise tea standards everywhere. And we embrace innovation, share knowledge like this, and encourage collaborations as well. And our aim is to improve every cup and make sure producers get a fair price for their wonderful efforts as well. We're not for profit, so we would really love you to consider joining us as members. We have wonderful volunteers. So if you like, you can join us as a volunteer in our working groups as well. We'd love to have you and would appreciate any support you can give us. And to know more, please just visit us at specialtyteaeurope.com. But for today, I just want to say thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful June, and we will see you at the same time in July. Have a good night. Take care and God bless. Thank you, Rajah. Have a wonderful night too.
Have fun, everybody, and have a great summer solstice. Bye.
Indeed. Bye.